I hate golf. Okay. I hate it. It's one of the most boring things to watch. You could never catch me even like for fun with the boys, having some fucking brewskis, hanging out at a golf course or a putt, like learning golf. I just think it's the most boring fucking thing ever. However, interestingly, a common philosophy or strategy to dial in your ball to get it in the hole regarding golf are short strokes. And look, being a TRT consultant for many years now, I get to see primarily, first of all, I get to see what works, but I also get to see where people make mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make is not executing a short stroke change in one compound at a time and knowing which direction up or down to change that compound. So what I want to do in this video is break down my perspective and my strategy, what I've proven. It's a system that effectively just works for identifying which compounds to change in a protocol to further dial it in, but importantly, how much to change the protocol. Because at the end of the day, man, a fucking fully dialed in TRT protocol that is just adjusted to you, that you've made enough short strokes where it's totally jiving with your physiology, is a wonderful place to be. And I want as many people as possible to be in that place because it fucking feels good. So stick around. Before we start the video, boys, look, Cortex Labs is a performance optimization and hormone consulting company for men. We got a range of different products, ranging from the sourceless, our most popular product yet, everything from actual DHT to proviron to test of all esters to any anabolic and ancillary you can think of. You can get a down description of this video. Torque Stack, look, you guys know this. I built an Adderall alternative. It's basically a powerful stimulant without side effects. It's buy one, get one free. That special ends today, if you see on the screen. So use that. The code is down in the description of this video. And lastly, I'm a coach on TRT protocol restructuring, where you've got a one-off consult with me to redesign your protocol. Or if you need ongoing help for sexual dysfunction, a 3-month, a 6-month, or a 1-year package, you can book me for any of that stuff in under a minute at livecortex.com. All right, so what I want to do in this video is emphasize, really, I just want to plead with people that when you're dialing in a TRT protocol, say you want to change a protocol, or say suddenly erections go awry or libido goes awry and you're trying to fucking figure it out. The thing that you can't do, 2 things that you can't do. All right, right off the bat, let's just hammer these 2 things that you should not do. Otherwise, you're going to be in an endless purgatory of never dialing in, which feels shitty, demeaning, and is terrible. Number 1, you shouldn't change protocols too much, okay? You shouldn't change, I should say you shouldn't change them too quickly. When you're dealing with a long ester, whether it's cypionate or whether it's enanthate, neurotransmitter receptor sites, neurotransmitter quantity, androgen receptors, estrogen receptors, the receptors at the tissue level, penile tissue, muscle tissue, etc. These things take a while to change, even on the same dose. As an example, the same dose of testosterone enanthate at week 2 of a new protocol is going to affect you very differently at week 5 of that protocol. Not just because testosterone enanthate, being that it has a 4 to 5 day half-life, has to build up until ultimately you get to 1500 and you stay there. You get to your stable levels, and that might take 5 or 6 weeks. But at the same time, via changes in the neurotransmitters, their receptors, as well as ARs, sex hormone receptors, and their subsequent effects, like you're just not gonna have the full effect or understand where the hell you're at week 3. Once you get into week 4, I would say latter end of week 4, week 5, week 6, that's where you really get a feel for how things are going to be. The bloods are going to be relatively stable. They're not going to change all that much. And then you can decide, do I bring some proviron in? Do I bring some HCG in? Do I bring some masteron, some primobolan, whatever. Even with testosterone propionate, via this whole concept of neurotransmitters, their receptors, and sex hormone steroid receptors taking time to change and reach a new balance / homeostasis, the same principle, not the same timeline, but the same principle applies to testosterone propionate and testosterone cream. It isn't just about the stability of the bloods and ultimately the half-life. I mean, you want to give those 2 weeks, 3 weeks as well. It doesn't take 6 fucking weeks or 8 weeks, but you'd at least want to give them 3 weeks to make sure that like you're not changing the protocol away from what will eventually work at week 4. All right, so that's like point number 1. Stop changing your protocol too quickly. A lot of people come to me and they're in an endless purgatory of never dialing in. I mean, these guys haven't dialed in for 2 years. Imagine that. 2 years on TRT and they're not dialed in. And one of the primary reasons when we get to the bottom of it, they're not dialed in, is because they frequently change their protocol. All right, so stop changing your protocol quickly. it's a long ester, 4 to 6 weeks. You're better off going with the latter end of that, like 6 weeks. If it's a short-acting ester like prop or cream, give it 2-3 weeks. But the critical chunk of this video that emphasizes the major point that I'd like to get across to you folks, that if you don't get this, you're just gonna fucking have a hard time dialing in on TRT, is that back to the golf analogy, the stupid, boring game of golf, you've got to execute short strokes. All right. Think of if you can painstakingly get yourself to do this. If you can suffer through thinking about golf, think of golf like, you know, they make one big like hit, ball goes somewhere close to the fucking hole. Then they got to go up there and make a bunch of adjustments. Those are short strokes. Now, hopefully they can get that ball in sooner than later with less strokes, but it might take them 2, 3, in some cases 4 or 5 times to get the fucking ball in, even though the hole is 15 meters away. But those short strokes are carefully putted, if you will, strokes. I mean, they're just carefully crafted to take as short amount of time as possible to ultimately get the ball where it needs to be in the hole. And they're just minor adjustments. And that's really the principle that I want to get across to people regarding TRT protocols and changing certain compounds in the protocol. So let's get to some practical examples. This is where it actually illustrates the point, and I'm not just up here like blabbering. Okay, so in the case of a test prop, proviron, HCG, DHEA, and pregnenolone protocol. We're going to call it 30 milligrams a day of testosterone propionate. We're going to call it 12.5 milligrams a day of proviron. We're going to call it 10 and 10 on pregnenolone and DHEA. And we're going to call it 150 IU of HCG every day. All of these things are executed every day. So say you're on that protocol, you measure serum estradiol. It's at 49 picograms per milliliter, which may or may not be fine for you, but you're noticing that erections are hit or miss. They're not as hard as they need to be. Your spontaneous erections have largely gone away. You don't really have nocturnals. And if you do have morning wood or nocturnal erections, they don't happen every day, and they're a little lackluster, and your libido is suffering to an extent. In this case, you have to determine first what to change. If the estradiol is at 49, that would lead you to believe that potentially you've got to lower that estradiol. You know, again, on TRT, guys get in the 25 to call it 35 picograms per milliliter range, and normally things work fucking awesomely. That's just a good zone for people that are on just TRT. So you're already at 150 IU a day of HCG. Sure, you could go down to 125 IU or 100 IU. Below 100, you're kind of really pushing diminishing returns. I mean, within 24 hours, anything below 250 is completely out of your system in terms of serum HCG. In this case, the answer is actually simple. You change the proviron. I mean, if you need to lower estradiol, you have a compound in there that's kind of keeping it under control in proviron. It does inhibit aromatase to a mild extent. For a lesser effect duration window than Arimidex or Aromacin, it's about 10 to 12 hours. You know, and then that aromatase enzyme, you know, because of the half-life's out, proviron, that aromatase enzyme starts coming back and functioning normally. In that case, a simple short stroke of an additional 12.5 milligrams of proviron on top of your current 12.5 milligrams would be the next thing to try. Frankly, in line with this idea of short stroking it and not making massive changes that disrupt the system and disturb it right away, you would keep your morning dose of 12.5 milligrams proviron and then just add a 7 to 8 p.m. evening dose of proviron of 12.5 milligrams. Like, the rest of your protocol stays the same. You still have 30 a prop, you're 10 and 10 on DHEA and pregnenolone, you're 150 IU of HCG every day. All you did was, at the latter end of a 24-hour period, is you added 12.5 milligrams of proviron, having the discernment to know that because estradiol is high on the bloods and you're having dick problems, and the literature coincides with that all over the place, that probably the estradiol has to go down. Considering you already have a useful tool for that in the regimen, you just might need to bump up the dose a little bit. So you make a short stroke to 25 milligrams total a day, split up into two 12.5 milligram tablets. You get a pill cutter, you cut the proviron straight down the center, 12.5 in the morning, 12.5 at 8 p.m. Then, because, you know, sex steroid receptors do take some time to change, in this case, estradiol will take some time to change. The response from the little bit lowered estradiol is going to take some time to change. You give that, in the case of a bunch of fast-acting stuff, you give that 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Likely, that's going to be the solution to your problem, and the estradiol, instead of being at 49, is going to be 40, maybe 35, maybe 37, depending on how you respond to proviron. Now, conversely, because this is really fucking important, because not everyone responds to all of this stuff the same way as another guy. You could have a situation where your estradiol is sitting at 27 or 30, call it 25 to 30 picograms per milliliter. And because you're on test prop, because people respond to this very fucking variably, your total testosterone at a 30 milligram daily injection peaks at 1500 or above 1500. It just says greater than 1500. It is entirely possible and reasonable. So like, this is the direction that I would go, and that you would need a little more estradiol in that case, or that the suppression of aromatase is what's fucking with your dick. As we all know, you take aromatase inhibition too far and your penis will become functional solely for the purposes of urinating. I mean, things just completely sort of go by the wayside, and erection quality suffers massively, even more so, I would argue, than elevated estradiol. If you're sitting on the low side, and you should be able to distinguish between what high estrogen feels like relative to erections and sensation, and what low estrogen feels like relative to erection, sensation, and I should also say libido. You got to have that discernment, boys. You have to have that discernment, which means you got to sit at high estrogen and low estrogen for long enough to understand what it feels like. And you should take notes of those things so that you know for next time. But in this case, a simple, again, short stroke. Maybe you got a little bit too much aromatase inhibition happening via the 12.5 milligrams of proviron. Look, prop exits the system quickly. Maybe your CYP enzymes are metabolizing testosterone very quickly. Thus, you're getting less aromatization at the trough between hour 15 and hour 24. You might trough like a madman. Testosterone levels drop. While you're sleeping, the estradiol drops. You clear some out through your urine as you wake up once in the middle of the night or twice to pee. You're peeing estrogen out. Again, it's about short strokes. Your 12.5 milligrams of proviron should go down to 6.25 milligrams of proviron, which means you would take that half a sliver of a 25 milligram sterilone tablet, proviron tablet. After you've split that in half, you would split it in half again. And thankfully, I've done that before. I've run 6.5 or 6.25 milligrams proviron with protocols before, and it works out perfectly. Proviron is the type of tablet that when you cut it with a pill cutter, cuts very cleanly and very evenly. And you make that change. 30 milligrams prop, 10 of pregnenolone, 10 milligrams DHA, 150 IU HCG, and you just split the dose in half of proviron to 6.25 milligrams instead of 12.5 milligrams. There, you're going to get less inhibition of the aromatase enzymes, and the estradiol is going to be able to creep up a little bit to be a little more in line with what is likely a pretty super physiologic levels of testosterone. And I don't mean like 1100, on prop, you're shooting up to 15, 16, 17, 18, 2000, 3000, depending on your dose. Point is though, in both of these examples, we just changed one thing. We knew the right thing to change. You've got to practice discernment on knowing what the right thing to change is. And we only changed it a little bit, We didn't make, again, this is the biggest mistake, not just changing protocols too fast, but changing fucking 3 things. If you just got the idea because you're hypothesizing because you think you're a TRT expert or an expert in your own body, don't trust yourself, man. Use a scientific method for this. You go and reduce the HCG dose and change the proviron dose and maybe add a little more pregnenolone. Then you have no idea what did what. And in those arbitrary decisions, you very rarely end up in the end point, like the outcome. You're not just going to arbitrarily fucking dial in because you change 3 things at a time. That's just not how it works. It is a lot more likely that you're going to screw things up. You will not know which change did what. And you end up in this place that I'm trying to help people or prevent people from going in, which is an endless purgatory of never dialing in your protocol. Let's take HCG, for example. When you're changing your HCG dose, you should not change it in large increments. This is a great way to just skew the outcome. You're going to skew it in one way or the other, one direction or the other, just super negatively. If you take the HCG dose from 150 IU every day, let's say, to 300 IU every other day, well, then you're adding 150 IU, per every other day at that point. You're also bolusing HCG at once, and this is gonna intratesticularly increase estradiol, and that's going to affect systemic circulation, that's going to affect sex drive, erection quality, etc. So again, you don't make changes on the HCG in this hypothetical in haphazard extreme manners. If you're at 150 every day and you're feeling like there's a little bit of excessive estradiol going on and some other side effects associated with estradiol and HCG, a lot of those side effects are either progesterone related and a good bit of them are estradiol related. Yeah, sure. You would want to move down, but go to 125, go to 125 IU. Then again, if it continues, go to 115 IU. Go to 110 IU, go to 100 IU. Again, very rarely do you need to go below that. You've got to do some other things to manage estradiol if you absolutely need to, but it's about moving the HCG in this case in very small increments. Remember, boys, fucking golf, short strokes. Same thing, by the way, just to finish this off, to hammer this point home, goes for the test. Okay. Whether you're on a long ester or you're on a short acting ester like proper cream, when you change doses, if you are assuming that the testosterone itself is the thing to change, which really should be influenced by finding, okay, do I need this amount of testosterone to have symptom resolution, energy, anabolism, these kinds of things? And then you sort of go from there on ancillaries and estradiol. Like you shouldn't be moving things in extreme ways. If you're at 140 milligrams a test and you feel like you're having erection issues, so go down to 130. Right? If you don't want to change anything else and you're dialed in on HCG, or you just like the dose because it's good for testicular function or cosmetic stuff or whatever, then yeah, lowering your dose is going to lower the estradiol if that's what you feel like you need because you've discerned that. Move to 130. Then from there, if the problem still exists, go to 125. Right? If the problem still exists, we'll go to 120. You drop from 140 to 110 milligrams of testosterone a week. And first of all, you're going to fucking feel it. You're going to feel a lot less energized. Your workouts are probably going to suck for 2-3 weeks. And that might not ever stabilize because you might need more testosterone than 110 milligrams a week. Most people do. But you don't want to be changing things massively. If you need to up the dose, okay, you're hypothesizing that I just might need a little more testosterone. I might need to manage estrogen and do some other stuff with ancillaries, but baseline, my body might just need more androgens. Don't fucking go from 140 to 180 to 185 to 200 to 210. Don't do that. Go from 140 to 150. Go from 150 to 160, 165, 165 to 180, 180 to 200, then 210 and upward if you absolutely have to. I know guys that have to be on 300 milligrams plus of testosterone a week because that's the amount of androgens that works well for them. With testosterone propionate, let's say you've got to move up or down. Okay, you call it, you're at 30 milligrams and you figured out testosterone itself is what needs to change. You want to move it downward, go to 25. Don't drop to 15 right away. Go to 25, let that level out for a few weeks, see where you are, rerun labs, and then make an intelligent decision on what to do from there. Keep going down stepwise until you ultimately, I wouldn't go below 12 milligrams a day of testosterone propionate. Some people are hyper responders to that stuff and they'll do fine on such a low dose. Same thing applies for moving up with testosterone propionate. If you're at 30 milligrams, but you feel like you need a little more testosterone, go to 35. See how that feels for 2 weeks. Okay. Then go to 40. See how that feels. Don't make significant extreme changes with large dose fluctuations in anything. It really comes down to the short strokes, and the shorter your strokes are, the better you're going to dial in. And the longer your strokes are, because of how long things take, remember, sex hormone receptors, neurotransmitter quantity, and receptors, the bigger the dose fluctuation changes are, the longer it's going to take for you to stabilize, and you will be one of those people that is in the endless purgatory of never dialing in, and I don't want you to be. All right, boys, as I said in the beginning, look, I'm a coach on this. We've got TRT protocol restructuring. It's a one-off call with me, pretty popular, where I'll hear your situation and redesign your protocol, get it on an online document for you to go and execute. You can book that at underaminutelifecortex.com. For those of you that have serious sexual dysfunction, erection issues, libido issues, and you have the budget and you need time. A lot of this stuff takes time to dial in. And like I'm working with guys every other day, and you want frequent support, ongoing, continuous support. Hire me for a 3-month, a 6-month, or a 1-year package if you got the budget and want to go for an entire year. That's where we get most of the real work done. You can do that at underaminutelifecortex.com. All right, Torque Nootropic Stack, again, Adderall without the side effects. This is the last day that it's buy one, get one free, boys. So this is it. Last day. Code is on the screen. Code's down in the description of this video. Go buy a bottle, get a bottle for free. Source list, trusted compilation of trusted vendors. And by the way, one of the most trusted vendors, like one of my favorite vendors, which are specified in the source list, just upgraded their inventory completely with the addition of a bunch more goodies, not just peptides that we all know and love, but more esters of testosterone. everything you can think of in all very high quality. But also Proviron, DHT, anything you can think of is in store. So let's get it at livecortex.com or down in the description of this video. All right, boys, it has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Please like the video. It makes a huge difference to the channel. Just hit the like button. If I said resonated with you, if you want more breakdowns like this, YouTube will show you our content if you hit the like button. Sub to the channel. Again, many more breakdowns on all topics relative to hormones, TRT, sexual optimization for males, and many more topics. It has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. More content coming soon. Live stream this weekend, 9 a.m. Eastern time, right? Be there. And I'll talk to you boys in the next one.